And I've always believed that any hardship teaches you lessons and you become stronger as a result. And this crisis certainly has been extremely difficult and painful.
Good morning, David. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's really a pleasure.
Could you tell us a little bit about where Best Western stands with this very special 2020 years?
In terms of hotels that are closed, and Europe is probably the worst right now because of the ramping rage of the virus as well as the government shutdowns. We have about 20 some percent of hotels are closed in Europe at this time. Regrettable, because many of the hotels are fighting for survival, and this new shutdown is certainly very, very bad news. In Asia, about 12% of hotels are closed, and in the US, only about 3% of hotels are closed, although we are seeing that now there are new government shutdowns. And, we are fortunate in some ways because we have a very wide range of hotels in our portfolio. We have urban city center hotels, we have resort hotels, and certainly secondary markets, and those seem to be doing better than urban center hotels.
Would you compare there is some similarities between those crises, or we are really in something special nowadays, or do you see some common points?
I've been in the industry for a very long time, and I lived through the oil embargo in the 70s in Hawaii, for example. That was really bad because the flights cannot go into Hawaii, and hotels were running occupancy in the 30% range. That was really bad. But if you look at what we're going through now and the extent of it, like how long it's lasted, this is certainly the very, very worst the industry has ever seen. I don't recall in history the industry being down by as much as what we are seeing now in RevPAR. In the US, we're down by about 55% now. In Europe, it's far, far worse. And there's no other time in history that the industry has seen this kind of downturn, which is just terrifying and makes you wonder what's going to happen next and if we can survive.
How do you feel the relation has been talking with your franchisee, how they felt during that time, how you could support them to a certain extent?
Yes, and we certainly are in very close contact with all our hotels because we know the tremendous pain and suffering that they're enduring right now. Many of them are pulling shifts themselves because they can't afford people to work in hotels. And many of them have some arrangements with their lending institutions, but that's coming to an end. And they're exhausting the reserves that they have. And so many of them are actually not in very good shape and very worried about the future. In that regard, we have tried to help them in several different ways. From the onslaught of the pandemic, when we knew it's a pandemic, we immediately provided relief to our hotels in the form of waivers of fees or reduction in fees, and also support in terms of new guidance in cleaning protocols and breakfast, how we would do that, and how we clean rooms, and so on and so forth. Because as you know, pandemic has changed a lot of things, and timely guidance and support for hotels is really important.
Did you learn something about yourself when you have to speak with your team? Is there something that this crisis has teach you in some way? Because I think every manager is facing something very special during that time.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. All of us have to reflect and be introspective and think about what we have learned through this crisis. And I've always believed that any hardship teaches you lessons and you become stronger as a result. And this crisis certainly has been extremely difficult and painful for me. I had to personally separate from some very long-term associates who had helped build the success of the company. And that was regrettable and like I said before, very sad for me and bothered me for many months and still bothers me. But what I learned is to value people and it's kind of like friends that suddenly pass away. You wish you had spent more time with them and value the time that you had with them. And so I think back to all those associates that I had the opportunity to work with. I really appreciated their work, and I feel sad that they're no longer with us. But I'm going to work really hard to bring all them back, and that gave me determination too, right? I have to improve the situation so I can bring them back. So I feel a lot of responsibility towards them, and I'm going to work really hard to achieve that.
We had the great honors to have you as a president of the ceremony for the Worldwide Hospitality Awards in Paris back in 2018. During your speech, that was very vibrant and inspiring. You were talking about disruptions from our industry. Will this pandemic reshuffle some cards?
I think the pandemic has definitely changed the travelers' attitude and expectations. For example, I think cleanliness, the awareness of hotels' efforts in providing a healthy and safe environment will stay for a long time to come. People are much more aware of cleanliness and therefore heightened expectation in that regard. I think designs of hotels will also change. There was already a trend towards a more minimalistic kind of design, but now with this pandemic, a lot of hotels know they have to declutter the room. They cannot have things in the room because that provides so many more opportunities for touching. So that has to change. And of course, touchless has always been a trend, and now it's propelled by the pandemic to be even more prevalent. And so touchless in many areas. For example, in our hotels, we print a lot of things. There are welcome letters, guest directory, and so forth. And we are advocating for hotels to use QR codes so we don't have to print anything. People can just scan the QR code with a phone and pull up whatever information they want.
Did you add some significant opening despite the current situation? Because we have few hotels could open. So is there any good news on the Best Western network?
Best Western itself actually invested in two projects and we broke ground. And these projects are Vibe Hotels. It's an upscale boutique new construction brand. And we broke ground in Tempe, which is next to the Arizona State University, as well as in Denver in the Rhino area, which is a very exciting up and coming area. Both of them are very heavy on the local experience and design centric and projects that we're very proud of. And that's why we invested in them directly.
What is your ambition for the coming years? Do you have a specific plan to develop across Europe? Is there any strategy more focused towards urban hotel or resorts?
Oh, definitely. I think Europe remains one of our focus areas, and the fact that we already have a strong presence there gives us an advantage. And Best Western and all our brands, we now have 18 brands, believe it or not. We have a wide variety of options that we provide to hotel owners and developers. So I think we have a very good foundation from which to grow. We have a good reputation. We have the options, and our fees are attractive, and we provide great services. We deliver a lot of reservations. So I think there are huge opportunities ahead. At the same time, I think it's going to take a while for Europe to recover because it's been set back so much. And but within the next few years, I think we should be well on a path for recovery.
During this year, I'm sure you are working very hard to try to struggle with the situation. But is there any new secret plan or products you are working on that you can maybe share with us? Any idea or any new services that Best Western is planning to open or distribute in the coming month?
I think we have to be always aware of the stage in the life cycle that we are in. Every person, every company has a life cycle. And back in 2019, when we were hitting on all cylinders, we were thinking about innovation in terms of new products, services. But in 2020, we saw what happened. the bottom fell out, and so we have been in a survival mode, and life stage that we're in is about conserving, preserving, and surviving. But as you enter 2021, there are going to be vaccines available, so we're going to be in the recovery mode. We're not going to be in the growth mode per se, but it's in the recovery mode. So we have to what we do.
What is your guess or your bet about where we're going to be back to normal trends, or maybe there is some discrepancy between regions? What is your thought at that stage?
I don't think I'm going to be able to tell you anything different than a lot of the industry prognosticators. It really depends on the vaccine, how fast it's rolled out, and how many more vaccines become available. So the more vaccines that are available, that are effective, that people have confidence in and will absolutely take the vaccines, and the more distribution there is, more widespread it is, and more adoption, the faster the recovery. I think we need to get to what in the US we call herd immunity, which means about 70% of the population would have taken a vaccine or have antibodies in them to protect them. When you get to that stage, then things will become normal again. But it's not a fast process. It's a slow process. And at the same time, you have a lot of companies that are very concerned, and they have what they call the duty of care. They're afraid to send travelers visiting offices or making sales calls because they're concerned about the health and well-being of their employees. So they are going to be hesitant to do that until they feel good about the situation, which means the vaccines are widely distributed and adopted. So there's going to be a little bit of time before we get to that stage, but certainly sometime next year, especially the second half, we should see a very meaningful recovery.
I wish you a great season greetings for the coming weeks, and hopefully to see you and the industry in a wonderful shape very early in 2021 or maybe 2022 latest.
Well, thanks very much for having me.